It's a podcast, but it's just not just any podcast. It is Funny Like a Clown podcast. I'm your host, Dennis Wirth, exploring the history of comedy. I've been gone for a while, but just like a good magician like David Copperfield, I'm back. And it's like, whoa, how do you do that? How do you back? That's right, I'm back, man. And hey, been having some stuff going on, holidays, personal life. But hey, I haven't forgot the podcast because we are doing some great stuff here, and I'm going to continue to do great stuff. This is episode 171, February 18th, 2022. Hope you had a great Valentine's Day. You spent it with your loved one because there's nothing more important in life than your loved one. And if you don't believe that, you want to get a good gift to give them, you send them some G Vegas buffalo sauce. Because as always, today's episodes brought to you by G Vegas Buffalo Sauce, the official sponsor of Funny Like Clown Podcast. Go to www.gvegas.webs.com. Go green, go fresh. Get a ship right to your door. And we discuss comedians here. And I was thinking the reason I came up with the show because some people like it, some people don't. But I mean, I got good numbers, so I'm assuming more people like it than don't. But I'm a football fan. I like the New England. I'm a New England guy. I like the Patriots, and I just you sit down and on a Sunday and all morning you just watch the broadcast and you listen to them talk about football, and then you get later in the day and you watch the game, and it's like, well, I like to talk about comedy, so why don't I start a podcast? And like they're talking about football all day, we'll be talking about comedy all day. Then you can catch your favorite comedy show on the weekend. And I'll tell you what, who's coming is Steve Martin, man. He's going to be coming around here, and I swore I'd catch him last time, and none of my friends wanted to go, and I don't care if I got to go by myself this time. I'm catching Steve Martin this time because, I mean, for our generations, I'd say, in my opinion, the top five comedians of our generation, which were George Carlin, Richard Pryor, Steve Martin, Rodney Dangerfield, and Bill Cosby. Judge them any way you want. We all grew up listening to comedy. Those are the five godfathers of comedy we grew up on. And off of that came all the ones that we love, the Sam Kinnisons from me and whoever your favorite comedian is. But for our era, I think those were the five godfathers of comedy. And Cosby, oh yeah, I've heard rumors he might start touring again. I don't know who's, he's still got a fan base out there. A lot of people hate him. A lot of people think he was set up. Depends on your personal opinion, but I don't know whether he will at his age. I mean, my gosh, they can't be much left, but still undecided if he'll tour again. But yeah, Pryor's passed on. Carlin, he passed on. I was lucky enough to see him about a few months before he passed away up at Salisbury Beach in New Hampshire. Hot as heck up there on the beach, but if you don't mind the heat, hey, it was a great show. Let's see. Dangerfield passed away. I never got to see him, so I did see Cosby. They asked. They had a thing on Facebook. Your least memorable concert, and I had to choose Cosby. It was like, you were so thrilled to see Bill Cosby, and you're waiting to see, the Cosby Show dad, and he came out, and he was just like, yeah, he was here. I do what I got to do, and I don't know. He kind of babbled on for half the concert. He did a few old routines, which I said I wouldn't have been disappointed if he didn't, but he didn't do anything new. It wasn't like nothing you hadn't heard. It was about the time the Fat Albert, the movie, not the cartoon, but the movie he made out of it came out, and he was promoting that. And I remember there were some kids backstage like goofing off, and he just left the stage to go yell at them and like showed little concern for the audience. And I don't know, but I wouldn't say it was a bad concert, but I mean, out of all the ones I've been to, I had to say that was the least memorable. But Steve Martin, man, he's the last of the legends. He was the original to start selling out arenas where before Steve Martin, it was all, comedy clubs was as big as this comedy got. You play a big hall or something, local hall, but comedy, never seen arenas like bands, like, my God, that's for the Beatles, for the Stones, comedy, you don't play stadiums. Hey man, when he came out with King Tut, every radio station was playing it, and then the Saturday Night Live stuff, he did it. But let's get on to it, man. He launched The Next Generation. And who are we here to discuss? We are here to discuss Miss Amy Schumer, okay? Great comedian in her own right, and pretty rags to riches story here. And the man, I'd say she earned it. And, you know, people keep tuning in. You're doing something right, man. I had a lot of people, complaining about my comedy. Hey, man, you do a lot of your own shows. Do other people's shows, man. Nobody's asking you their shows. Like, well, if I got enough fun on my own work that I don't need anybody else to book me, that's a pretty good thing. That's not a bad thing. Okay, people are coming out to my shows and I don't need anyone else to book me. Yeah, that's pretty much showing I'm doing a pretty good job, if you ask me. So she's doing a pretty good job. Let's put it that way. But let's see. She came to light in the fifth season of Last Comic Standing. That was which introduced us to her. She was around before that, but as to a national standing, that's where we first go. Who's this chick here, man? Who's the blonde chick with the funny jokes, man? 2007. I'm calling Amy Schumer a chick, but hey, she does enough jokes about guys I can call. She gets it. She's a comedian. She's not offended like everybody today. But let's see, 2013 to 16, she was the creator of Inside Amy Schumer on Comedy Central. It was a sketch show. She gave him some great titles this year. I'll tell you, just her titles alone, I thought were very just catchy. You know, you want something to catch people's eyes, and she was always able to do that. She won a Peabody and was nominated for a Primetime Emmy Award for her work on Inside Amy Schumer at Comedy Central. Made her film debut in Trainwreck in 2015. 2016, published a memoir, The Girl with the Lower Back Tattoo, or as we called it growing up, the Tramp Stamp. But if a girl had a lower back tattoo, you knew what was going on. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you go to a bar and there's three girls with no back tattoo and there's one with a back too. Well, you know who you're going home with that evening. That's kind of a given that, that you date women and you have fun with the girls. That's what the old saying is. If you got a tramp stamp, that was pretty much a given. Let's see. The memoir spent 2 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. So hey, 2 weeks on the bestseller list, can't beat that. You're making some money there. Nominated for 2 Grammys for her comedy album Amy Schumer Live at the Apollo, which I can't say I've seen, but I mean I know that was more of a African American venue where the black audience, what really went. It was like Buddy Holly, I think. I mean, he went to the Apollo, I think it was, and he played. It was like, whoa, a white boy at the Apollo, what's going on? I could almost picture just Amy Schumer coming out, all the black guys in the audience. Hey, who the blonde chick there, man? Hey, baby, what's that? I just a blonde white chick at the Apollo, just funny in itself, right there. But won over the audience, I'm sure, because everybody probably wanted to bang around the audience, but all the black guys in there, one fine piece of blonde woman up there. Let's see. Starting her own film, I Feel Pretty, and she did some off Broadway work, which and some on Broadway work for her career, where she won a Tony Award for later in her career. Let's see, she's born in Manhattan, and most people in comedy, they started out the class clown, and she said she was voted in the yearbook in 1999 the class clown and the teacher's worst nightmare. And I was the class clown in school. I was always looking for a laugh, which I guess any comedian, you're always looking for a laugh. Even when you're not on stage, you're always just looking to make people laugh in any situation. What can I say to make everyone laugh? It's such a good feeling to laugh. Moved to Baltimore, Maryland after high school. Attended Towson University. Graduated there in theater in 2003, where she returned to New York and studied at the William Esper Studio. And everybody thinks they can't be a star. Oh no, that happens to other people, not me. I mean that's other. I remember thinking that as a kid. Oh my God, it wouldn't be a man. Well, I wonder what they do to be star. How do they win? Their parents must have. Well, they had regular lives like us before they became the big stars, and you don't think that. She worked as a bartender and a waitress. She relocated to Santa Barbara after that, which with a boyfriend, which later she called an abusive relationship. But she worked as a pedicab driver out there, which a pedicab is one of those things they hop in the back of one of those little pedaling bike and you pedal the bike and you pedal, it's a cab, but you have to pedal it like a bicycle. So let's just say the girl worked, okay? And she probably had some big calf muscles after doing that too. Let's see. In New York, she started doing some off Broadway work when she went back there. Started doing stand up on July 1st, 2004. So she marked the actual date down right down to the day she started. She performed at the Gotham in New York City, which I have performed at the Gotham. Great club, very professional from top to bottom. I can say I've worked Catch a Rising Star. That was real professional venue, and I got to say the Gotham. I mean, it's I've worked a lot of comedy venues. Okay, but not all have the money to be as professional as you'd like them to be. Okay, so but I mean, they got them. They got enough money. They got There's someone there just to direct the comics. Where I played Dangerfields, and it was the guy. It was an old guy there. I forget his name, but he was in charge of Seton. He was in charge of he was in charge of pretty much everything. Where at the Gotham, they got one person for each thing. He was in charge of them all because they probably couldn't afford one for each thing. Who knows? But my favorite memory that got them, I was on I was on the late show, standing in the green room, and from the early show walks in Jerry Seinfeld and Jim Gaffigan, and I'm just kind of standing there in the green, looking at my phone. I look up and hey, that's Jerry Seinfeld. Hey, he's talking to Jim Gaffigan. Hey, I'm in the green room with Jerry Seinfeld and Jim Gaffigan. It was one of those moments where you realize, hey, I'm a part of something big here. Let's see. 2007, she released Live at the Gotham, an episode for Comedy Central, which she later called that episode was a big break because after she did that, then led to her appearance on Last Comic Standing. She auditioned unsuccessfully for it in an earlier season, but in a later season that she did finally get on, she ended up finishing fourth. And she said she'd only been doing comedy for 2 years. And it's like she wasn't supposed to do well. So she said every time she advanced, it was a surprise to her. It's like, I remember Tom Cotter, he was on America's Got Talent. And he said once he got as far as, any other comic had ever made it, he said everything gravy after that because nobody had ever gone that far. So he went all the way to number two. So I guess we're still waiting for that one great comic just to win the whole damn thing because it's tough, to just, especially in the platform they have on there, it's tough to be funny in that short a time and to be quick. And every might just be right on the top of your game. And comedy, where there's a lot of flashy kind of really ritzy things, where comedy is more traditional and it's not something you haven't seen before. Everybody's seen comedy, but you got to come up with funny enough comedy that you haven't heard before. But she said she stayed honest to herself, and it served her well, which I've had nights like that. I heard Bill Cosby had nights like that too, where they found him in this little venue and he was just crushing it. They're like, hey, we want you to play our big club. And then he went to the big club and changed his whole act into what he thought they wanted to see rather than what he was doing. And he bombed the first night. And he was scheduled for 2 nights. He's like, look, I know I bombed. I won't even come back tomorrow night. And the guy told him, no, you come back tomorrow night, okay? But here's what I want you to do between now and then, okay? You see the guy that performed in here tonight? I want you to drop him, okay? Remember that guy I found across the street playing in the little club? You bring that guy in here tomorrow night. That's the guy I want to see right there. So, man, don't change your stuff. Remember what got you there. And I remember the basketball movie Hoosiers with Gene Hackman, where they played, in this little town, and the little town made all the way to state finals. And they walked in, they had never even seen a building that big. And they measured from the floor to the rim before they left their high school gym. When they got to the big arena, he says, you measure the same thing, the exact number of inches. And he said, don't forget where you came from. That's the same rim. I don't care about the lights, the big city, whatever. That's the same rim, the same size rim you've been shooting at. So don't change yourself. Which I did that. Which I've been able to every time I went and had a set I wasn't happy with. I caught myself. I was able to go back and kind of redeem myself, and I did. One night I played comics Roadhouse. It was at a casino here, and I went in there, and it's like I already did my best material and some other stuff, and I wanted to do something different. So, and it was like I went and told a story, and I was like I was first up, and they weren't you hit them with your one-liners, which gets them laughing, and once they know you're funny, then they'll listen to your story. But to open up with a story, they don't know you're funny yet. So, but I've never been able to go back and really redeem myself and crush it. So, which I have the opportunity. I might go back there. Who knows? I got to redeem. We're there in a different casino now, but it's the same club. Oh, let's see. What else did she do? Let's see. Let's see. After she appeared on Last Comic Standing and finished fourth, let's see. Moving on. I only got so many notes here, and I guess I got to move on with the notes before I can give you the information here. All right, 2008, she co-starred in Reality Bites on Comedy Central, which back then, yeah, Comedy Central, they were grabbing a lot of the comedians. That was kind of their platform. They were using comedians to advertise Comedy Central, and nowadays Netflix, they're jumping on all the big comics to say, hey, come to Netflix. And I know Spotify, man, they're getting a lot of the comics. So a lot of places using comedy to bring in the stars because they got the audience and they got the platform. It's like Bill Burr said. He's like, well, how come you pay? When you go to Vegas, why do you pay the big arena? They're coming to see you. He's like, well, if I don't do that, I'm performing in a parking lot somewhere. It's like they need me and I need them. So it's kind of we need each other. So you need someone to put your work out. Let's see. 2009 was part of an advertising campaign for Butterfinger, the candy bar there. Remember Bill Cosby did Coke and Coca Cola, that is. And who knows what he was mixing in the Coca Cola, but he advertised the Coke, and whatever was in the Coke, he didn't advertise. Have a Coke and a smile. Well, he had the Coke and the smile, and the poor girls paid the price. If it's true, I don't know. I'm not an advocate that it was totally true. But that's your opinion. We did a couple episodes on a Finally Calm podcast of Bill Cosby. Look him up if you want to hear about him. Let's see. Amy Schumer's first Comedy Central Presents special was in 2010. She was a co-host of A Different Spin in 2011. She's written articles for Cosmopolitan, the magazine. Let's see. Episode 154, What the Fuck Podcast with Mark Maron in 2011. Let's see. She was on the comedy series 30 Rock, the Adult Swim mockumentary Delocated, two HBO series, Kirby Enthusiasm and Girls, frequent guest on Howard Stern and the Opie Anthony Show. So it's like basically all the stuff we grew up watching as a kid and you'd love to be on. She got to be on once you hit it big. And that's one of the coolest parts of this business. I'm a big Sam Kinison fan. And they said when Sam hit it big, he was truly in awe that he was just hanging out with all these big stars. He didn't let it go to his head. He was very appreciative, like, of all the stars that do it. And I remember I had on my old TV show Stuttering John Melendez, and he said that Sam, if he had over three big stars and John Melendez, he treated John the same way, before John was a star, as he did. He never treated him any different. So that's cool right there when you don't forget where you came from. Amy Schumer, I heard a story about her because I believe she's located now. I'm in Massachusetts doing this podcast. She's out on Cape Cod, which that's where the Kennedy compound is. All the rich people out on Cape Cod. So I think her husband has some fancy restaurant out there, and that's where they do their thing. But I think she was in town one time and she went to a restaurant. The waitress was so thrilled. Oh my God, Amy Schumer's getting dinner at my restaurant. She's like, do you mind if I get a picture with you? She's like, well, I'm trying to stay incognito. I can't let nobody know I'm in town, even though I'd love to. She's like, okay, I understand. Ended up left with like a $500 tip where Amy used to be a waitress. She knows tips are how you make your money. So to leave a $500 tip, that's what, Sam used to do that too. They said his brother said he'd go to a restaurant just joking around. He'd ask a waiter, hey, what's the biggest tip you ever got? The waiter had given him whatever they gave him for amount. Sam would double it for a tip on the way out. So that's the way you do it. You don't forget where you came from. I have had a few comics I met where they kind of forget where they came from. I'm not going to drop names because I don't make any enemies, but it's kind of sad when you say, hey, you used to be where I'm at, man. Don't forget, don't forget where you came from. That's not cool. Let's see. Amy Schumer went on to do 3 independent films, Price Check, seeking a friend for the end of the world. Let's see, Sleepwalk with Me. She's on the Comedy Central roast of Charlie Sheen and the Comedy Central roast of Roseanne Barr. And I remember Whitney Cummings. Whitney Cummings was like the big go-to girl comic before Amy Schumer came along, and all of a sudden, she got her own series on, primetime TV and everything. And Whitney became too big for the Comedy Central roast, and one of the people were asking her, well, do you hope someday are you gonna become too big for the Comedy Central roast? She's like, well, gosh, I hope so. It's like, I mean, who wouldn't hope they get their own sitcom or whatever become too big for Comedy Central? But I mean, that's part of the stepping chain, and she was on it. And after Whitney Cummings came Amy Schumer, and let's see. Uh, Comedy Central special, mostly sex stuff came out, along with a comedy album, Cutting Doll. And 2014, she did a backdoor tour to promote Inside Amy Schumer, a Comedy Central, which got picked up for a bunch of seasons, which, if you make it past one season, you're doing good. So Make it past one, that means the fans like you. So, but she went out and promoted it. I remember. I'm a big Van Halen tour. I remember when David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar toured together. Sammy said all Dave wanted to do was just show up and perform. He didn't want to go out and do anything to promote. He didn't want to do the radio and TV and just sell tickets, man. Try to promote it, So that was so. I mean, you got to promote your product if you want it to be successful. And that was one of the big things. Even locally, when I do the comedy shows, I read up. They say don't buy the little tiny article. Yeah, they're cheap in the newspaper. The little time nobody sees them. Okay, pay the money, get the big articles. Like you'll make the money back. The more you spend, the more you're gonna make. So I buy the big articles. I don't get the little ones. Let's see. 2014, she was on Jerry Seinfeld's Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. And if Jerry Seinfeld's calling you, you're at the top of your game because he only has the best of the best on there. Let's see. Hosted the 2015 MTV Music Awards. I remember Arsenio Hall hosted those when I was a kid, and then they got away from music, and I stopped watching the channel. It became a reality TV kind of thing, and I wasn't into that, so I stopped watching. Back when they played the videos, everybody was watching. That's the big joke, though. Yeah, MTV don't play music anymore. A music television station with no music. Let's see. Here's a big one. Open for Madonna for her 3 dates in New York City, which I know a lot of musical acts do use comedians to open up for them. I remember Pauly Shore's dad got to open for Elvis back in the day, and he might just open for Elvis. Oh my God! Well, same thing, opening for Madonna. I mean, if Van Halen called me up and say, "Hey, Dennis, you want to open a few concerts for us? We're in Boston." I'd be like, "All right, but what was that? Yeah, okay." But man, Aerosmith called up. Hey, Dennis, we're in town. You want to open door? Yeah, 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 yeah. I'll be there. Sure. Let's see. On Spotify, which I said Spotify, they're buying a lot of comedians, bringing them. I mean, what they paid Joe Rogan 100 million whatever to bring his podcast over there solely, and Spotify released Amy Schumer podcast, Three Girls One Keith, in 2018, which I can honestly say I did not even know Amy Schumer had a podcast, so that was news to me. So I'm gonna have to look that up because I like Joe Rogan's, I like Whitney Cummings, I do like some of the comedian podcasts. And I am a fan of Amy Schumer somewhat, so I will have to check that out to see if I like it or not. Let's see. She did 8 episodes on the Food Network. Amy Schumer learns to cook. Then I guess the pandemic hit, and then she did a few episodes cooking from home. Which I used to have a local TV show called The Comedy Kitchen, where I brought on a local comics and some national comics I brought on to cook up some food. So a good cooking show if you like to eat. Hey, nothing better than a good cooking show. Everybody tells me, "Hey, man, you think you're the first one to think about a cooking show at comedians? You're not the first." Yeah, but I'm the first one who did it. See, everybody thought about it. 100,000 people thought about it. I actually made it happen. There's the difference right there. That's what I say. That's how Kevin Hart said it best. Everybody wants to be a star, but nobody wants to do the work. Yeah, everybody thought about it, but I'm the guy who actually did it. I'm the guy where you don't want to let me in your comedy club. I'll start my own comedy club. You don't want me on your TV show. I'll start my own TV show. Don't want me on your podcast. I'll start my own podcast. Put them out of business. They don't want to let you in. You put them out of business. That's how I roll anyway. You roll. How some people are nice, and that works for them. If you're nice to me, I'm nice to you. If you stick it to me, then damn it, I'm gonna stick it back to you. Some people turn the other shoulder and say, "Oh, I'll be the bigger person." I'm not big on being the bigger person. I'll show you how to get things done. I'll then get it done. So does Amy. Let's see. She did HBO Expecting Amy in 2020, where she was having a difficult pregnancy, and plus she's preparing for a comedy show at the same time. And yeah, I've asked. I mean, I had a son when I started doing comedy. He came first, and there were some nights, you had to choose the kid first. That's it. But which it's a difficult business. You got to be there 24/7, and sometimes you're not available. And I'm sure when you're pregnant, it's tough to be there 24/7, but you got to do what you got to do. 2021 film, The Humans, Life and Beth, did a 10 episode series on Hulu. So that's cool because I'm on Tubi. I got my film. I did an independent film like Amy called "The World Needs a New Superhero," and I got that on Tubi. So that's Fox TV streaming service. You go there, you can watch it free with commercials. Very proud of it. I'm going to be hopefully this summer starting "The World Needs a New Superhero" Part 2 and see how that goes. Uh, Let's see. She was a guest cast on season 2 of Only Murders in the Building. Co-host of the 94th Academy Awards. Yeah, that's cool when all the award shows start calling you to be the host because they only do veteran comics. They don't let the new comics do that. And it's like, I'm sure once they 94th Academy Awards said, "Hey, would you host Amy?" She must know, "Hey, I'm a veteran comic now. I'm not an up and comer anymore. I've made my name and I've made my bones in this business." That I had to feel good for her. Let's see. She joined the cast of Jerry Seinfeld's Unfrosted the Pop Tart Story, which I've never heard of that. Seinfeld's involved. I'm sure it's good because he puts out a good product, but I couldn't explain much about it. So you'll have to go Google that one and see what the hell that one's all about. Let's see. She listed her comedy influences as, which I've always said Sam Kinison was my influence to start this. Had a lot of comics I love, but Sam gave me the inspiration to try comedy. She listed hers as Wendy Lieberman, Carol Burnett, Lucille Ball, and Joan Rivers. And that right there, that's probably the Godfather's a stand-up comedy right there. And my mom recently told me she was going to see the film about they got four old ladies who drive to Texas together to see Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, and they made a film about it. It was a true story, and Lily Tomlin was in there. Just a lot of really veteran actresses are in there, so that's got to be worth seeing. She said of all though, it's like I said, I like Dice Clay, Artie Lang, Gilbert Gottfried, a lot of comics that I liked, but Sam Kinison was it, and she liked the Carol Burnett, the Lucille Ball, the Joan Rivers, but she said Goldie Hawn was one of her heroes in life, where Sammy was one of my heroes, and she got to do a movie with Goldie Hawn in 2017 called Snatched, and I can just imagine being to the level where they're going to give me a movie, and you know what? I get to call up one of my heroes and say, "Hey, they give me a movie. Would you be in this movie with me?" And I know, like Tom Cruise, he did it. He was with Dustin Hoffman, Jack Nicholson. I mean, he really did. He worked with a bunch of his idols, and it must be really satisfying to get to that point where you can work with your idols and say, "Hey, I did something with them." And even in my movie, The World Needs a New Superhero, Andrew Dice Clay, he did a little cameo in there for me, and what a thrill! Just Andrew Dice Clay's got this tiny little role in my movie, and it's just you gotta love that sort of stuff. Let's see. Named one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people. Barbara Walters named her one of the 10 most fascinating people in the world. A lot of glamour, a lot of glitz. On the rough side, and it's like she's been accused of being racist, of objectifying black men, calling Latina women crazy. Um, After being accused of all that, she came out and said she supported Black Lives Matter. Then they accused her, hey, too little, too late. That's kind of laughable that now you do it, only after you're accused of this stuff. But I gotta say, you know, I run comedy. I put on, some of the biggest shows in central Massachusetts. And these young kids, they'll say, hey, can I get a spot on your show? And I have to be honest with them. I got to tell them, you're not ready for a spot on my show. Work on your act. When you are, I'll let you know. But instead of doing that, it's, oh, Dennis is a jerk. He's a jerk. So if he won't put me on his show, then I'll attack him, and that'll make a name for me that I'm attacking somebody who's made it in comedy, and that's how they make a name for themselves. Like half of these people that accused Amy Schumer of being racist, I never even heard of. So it's more like they're trying to accuse her of this just to attach their name to Amy Schumer so they can, make something of themselves off of her popularity. So it was almost, why even respond to these people who don't even matter? I remember when Andrew Dice Clay hit it big. Who was it? Oh, I forget her name now. She was on Saturday Night Live, and she was about to be let go by Saturday Night Live. So, in order to make a name for herself, she refused to appear on the episode where Andrew Dice Clay was on, saying, "Oh, he objectified women," and it had nothing to do with him objectifying women. It's because she was trying to make a name for herself because she was about to lose her contract and get fired. So it was more of a ploy, than it was anything about racism or anything like that. And my theory is if you're a comedian, you can tell a joke about anything. You know why? Because it's a joke, okay? So, if you're saying context, it means it all. If you're saying something seriously, it should be taken seriously. If you're saying something as a joke, it should be taken as a joke. And if you can't do that, that's your problem, not mine. I'll joke about any subject anytime. I'm anything. I don't give a shit. Let's see. 2015, she performed nude for a calendar series, which I do remember one of the pictures her coming out. Because I mean, Amy Schumer, very pretty girl, but she don't have the stereotypical, Playboy body or whatever you call it, And but she proved. She said, "Hey, you can be beautiful. You can be big and beautiful. You can be little and beautiful. You can be beautiful. Medium and beautiful. Everybody's got these stereotypical images of what the perfect body is." And I think somebody made fun of her once at a news conference, and her response was, "Well, hey, I can still get a dick anytime I want, so I'm doing something right or something like this." Shut the woman right up. So that's the way you handle these people. Another big one I remember in 2016, she was accused of stealing jokes where, you know, there's so many premises, okay, that you can make a joke about. And it's like, if you pick one subject to make a joke about it, I'd pick one subject to make. Now, the jokes can be totally different, but it's about the same subject. So they'll say, oh, you stole the joke. But then you get in, is it word for word what somebody else did? Or she came out, she denied that she was ever doing that. Um, if you go on YouTube, somebody, they take clips of other people and play her right after it. And if they sound similar, and there's a word for that, I guess, where, two people think alike at school who've never met each other. It's, you know, but it's been done. I remember Steve Martin, he said he was one of the, like I said, he's one of the godfathers of comedy. He said when he started out, a lot of the stuff he brought you, Laurel from Laurel and Hardy, that he was doing it before that. He was just bringing the next generation, these standard jokes. We had talked about it. Abbott and Costello, the Who's on First. I mean, they didn't write that routine. That routine had been around for years, but they're the ones that brought it to the public, and that's why they got the credit for it. So it's, yeah, premises and everything. Yeah, I don't know. Guess that's which I could see if I had a really killer routine and I go out and somebody's doing my routine. Sure, I'd get pissed. Okay, but I mean, if it's a totally different routine just on the same subject of what I'm talking about, it's all right. Anybody can make fun of a subject. That's like, hey, I did a joke about the president. Yeah, well, I did too. He's the freaking president. Everybody's doing a joke about him. I mean, you can't take that subject and say, hey, you stole my premise. I mean, everybody's got a joke about the president. So, I mean, how close is it? I guess that's for you to decide. Here's one I found interesting. 2018, she was arrested at the Capitol for protesting the nomination of a Supreme Court justice. So even the stars get arrested. See right there. I'm sure she had enough money to make bail and had enough money to buy herself a good lawyer. I think I recently saw that geez, when they stormed the Capitol House there, they identified one of the people, and it turned out it was a judge or something, or some high ranking. She got herself in a little bit of trouble right there. Let's see. She did get pregnant, and she named her son Gene. And she was going to name the middle name Attell after Dave Attell, the famous comedian. But if you put them together, Gene Attell, it sounded like genitalia. she canceled out that idea right there. So there's one you probably didn't know about Amy Schumer naming her child right there. But yeah, hey, she's a Massachusetts gal. She's out there in Cape Cod by the Kennedy compound, and her husband restaurant. And man, she really named a name for herself. And some of the catchiest titles I could say that I've ever heard. Inside Amy Schumer. All kinds of the girl with the lower back tattoo and a lot of sexual references, but they were all references we all knew and we all grew up loving. But she put them into a title, and yeah, she, like I said, she stays real to herself. She don't try to be somebody she's not. And so they say the funniest things in comedy, they're real life stories. Anything you make up ain't half as funny as anything that if it really happened in real life. Those are the funny ones right there. Hey, I'm glad to be back, man. We're working on 200 episodes, and I got some big surprises for you. And I got to start. See, I took a little bit of time off. Now I got to put some hard energy into the podcast. I'm going to end it off the right way because, like I said, we're going to get about 200 episodes. That'll be the last one that I'm on my next project, what I'll let you guys know about. But I want to do the podcast justice because, man, we've had some big guests on here. We've discussed some great comedians, and we're really getting educated. If you like just shooting the breeze about comedy, man, this is the podcast to listen to. Tell your friends, stay neighbors. Funny Like Clown podcast. Our host G Vegas Buffalo Sauce. We'll see you soon. I'm Dennis Wirth. Keep them laughing. Good night.